Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming to our very special program in honor of One City, One Story 2023, presenting our author, Nadia Hashimi, with her book, Sparks Like Stars. Nadia will be here in Pasadena on Friday, March the 24th at 7 o'clock at the Pasadena Presbyterian Church at 585 East Colorado Boulevard. It's a free event. Everyone is welcome. We hope that you come and have an opportunity to listen to Nadia talk and have her book signed afterwards. Books will be available for sale at the event. Also, due to the generosity of the Pasadena Literary Alliance, we have books available of Sparks Like Stars at our 10 branch libraries for you to come in with your library card and pick up one book for you to read prior to coming to the program or to read afterwards. And we thank you very much for taking that opportunity to do so. And we're very appreciative of the Pasadena Literary Alliance for sponsoring the purchase of the books. And also the main sponsor of this event, of course, is the Pasadena Friends of the Pasadena Public Library. They support us in everything that we do. So today we are honored to welcome Sahar Education for Afghan Girls and the Executive Director, Mitra Alkozay. So Mitra is here as well as her team. And I want to introduce you to her team, Shofafa Ami. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correct. Please correct me.
Shugufa Amini.
Thank you very much. And Mustafa Ansari. Right. Did I do that somewhat close? Thank you very much. So Sahar provides equal education opportunities for girls and women in Afghanistan, building and repairing schools specifically for Afghan girls over the past 21 years to address substantial underrepresentation of girls in the Afghanistan education system, as girls' access to education in Afghanistan was banned after the Taliban take over the country in August 2021. Sahar remains committed to finding the alternative ways to educate girls and women in Afghanistan. And we are very honored that you're here with us today, all three of you, to educate us and tell us about all of the things that you are doing. I'm sure it is a very difficult time for you, and we appreciate your time and efforts very much. So Mitra, as the Executive Director, would you like to start?
Thank you so much for the introduction. My name is Mitra, and I have my amazing team here. My team makes sure that we get the work done. Shugufa Amini works with our on-the-ground partners on a regular basis, working with the programs and managing the programs with our partners on the ground that you will learn about in a bit. And Mustafa is our operations and finance manager, and he is the support that Shugufa and I need to carry on. And he has been very amazing and supportive of the work that we're doing. And it just feels so great to see men working for women's education and believing in the cause. Shugufa and I will always talk about how impactful it is to have men as allies with us in this fight and in the work that we are doing. That's why we're also working on programs for men, which again, you'll learn in a bit, but we're really grateful and appreciative of all the support that we get from Mustafa and all of the work that he's doing for Afghan women. Fun fact, all three of us are originally Afghans, and the cause that we work for is also very much personal to us, and we are all very personally connected to this cause. That's why it has been a little heavier for us than many others in the field, and we have been trying to support one another and make sure that we can move forward and continue the work that we do in Afghanistan. I will go ahead and present about our work and how we have pivoted after the fall of the government. But before I do that, I will provide you with a brief update about the country's situation and give you some context regarding the context that we're currently working in and the situations that we are working in. And Shagufta will read one of her poems that I love so much. She is a poet besides being our programs manager, and she writes mostly about women's rights and human rights. So I will go ahead and get started with the presentation about Sahar, and from there we'll also be open to any questions. Mustafa, Shagufta, and I will be very happy to answer any questions that you may have. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Okay. All right, so a little about Sahar. I would like to start with our mission. Our mission is to partner with Afghan-based grassroots organizations to create educational programs and physical learning spaces for girls and women in Afghanistan, and to empower and inspire children and their families to build peaceful and thriving communities. We not only work with young girls and boys, but also closely with their families to make sure that they understand the material that we are providing to students and to have their support for their children as they attend our programs and learn with us. A little about our history. So Sahar was founded in 2001 as a bridge to connect and to bring cultural awareness between Americans and Afghans by building one school in Afghanistan. And because of the feedback and positive outcome that Sahar got from building that school, Sahar was legally registered as a nonprofit entity in Seattle in 2009. We are a 501c3 organization. From there, Sahar expanded to building schools, computer centers, managing teacher training centers, and creating programs both for young girls and young boys and their families as well. Our achievements since our founders founded the organization, we have built and equipped 18 schools for girls, repaired 20 other schools, educated 28,000 students, mainly women and young girls. In 2022 alone, in spite of all the challenges and difficulties that we were facing as an organization, and also our partners on the ground were facing, we were able to provide educational opportunities for 520 women, young girls, and young boys. Before I move forward with our current programs and our current efforts, like I said, I'd like to give you a little update about what's happening in Afghanistan right now. We're currently working in Kabul, that's the capital of the country, and we're working in Mazar-e-Sharif, which is a northern province right here. So the Taliban do not have a centralized government, their local organizations, their local institutions are mostly affected by the views of a lot of the people in power in that specific area or province. Mazar-e-Sharif, the northern province, or the northern city of the province, Balkh, is known to be more flexible and more open to change. That's why girls in Mazar-e-Sharif were able to go to school up until 12th grade last year, while everybody else in the country, all other girls in the country, were out of school beyond 6th grade. So before the fall of the Republic, we used to build buildings for girls' schools in Mazar-e-Sharif and also work with the programs. However, after the fall of the government on August 15 of 2021, we were unable to continue building our schools. We were working on a boarding school for girls in Mazar when the unfortunate events happened and Afghanistan fell into the hands of the Taliban. From that day forward, the situation overall in the country, and mainly for women, have only been getting harder, as you will see as I proceed with the timeline of events. And on September 12th of 2021, so when the Taliban took over, because of the chaos that was created in the country, They asked all school students to stay at home. And September 12th of 2021, all boys school reopened, and they made an announcement that girls were allowed to come to school, but up until 6th grade, no female student beyond 6th grade was allowed in their schools. However, they made a pledge, the Taliban made a pledge that they will allow girls to rejoin their schools when the new academic year began in next March, which was March of 2022. In December 2021 and January 2022, Taliban detained female protesters who were protesting against the ban on girls' education and women's movement in the country. The protests happened all over the country, mainly in Kabul, Mazar, Herat. Those are the bigger cities, but again, it continued in smaller cities as well. The Taliban used force, detained and tortured these women. Most of the women's rights activists were threatened to stay home, or that they will be detained, or that their families will be harmed. Regardless of those threats, women still came out and they organized significantly in the first months. Unfortunately, they were silenced, but these protests are still happening in Afghanistan, which does not get media coverage because the Taliban are controlling the media strictly, and they do not allow media to post any of that information. The Taliban still continue to detain female protesters, also journalists who cover any stories related to women's protests. And on March 23rd of 2022, that's when the new academic year in Afghanistan starts. They backtracked on their pledge to reopen girls' schools. Girls beyond 6th grade were very happy and excited that morning, dressed to go to their schools, and they actually even went inside their classrooms. And a few hours later, the authorities came and asked them to leave, and that the school is closed indefinitely for girls beyond 6th grade. Unfortunately, that rule still stays in place, and it has only gotten stricter and harsher. On May 24th of 2022, female TV presenters were ordered to cover their faces on TV, and if they denied to cover their faces, they would have immediately been fired from their jobs. So all girls started to cover their faces. There was again another wave of protests against this new law, this new rule. Even their male colleagues from the TV stations joined the female employees in this protest and started to wear masks for a couple of days to show their support. But of course, that did not change the rulings that the Taliban issued. On December 21st of 2022, the Taliban banned women from universities and learning centers. So while girls were banned from high schools and secondary education, they were still allowed to go to universities. The co-education system had been eliminated totally, and girls and boys used to go to classes in different timings, and it also applied to learning centers. However, in December of 2022, even that was no longer possible, and all girls had to stay home, and they couldn't go to learning centers, universities. Only 3 days later, the Taliban issued another decree banning women from working for NGOs. In response to this ban, 180 organizations suspended either fully or partially their operations in Afghanistan, with very serious intentions to leave Afghanistan if the Taliban do not allow their female employees to come back to work. Some of these organizations decided to keep their female employees on the payroll, have them work from home so they can still get paid, but that has to come to an end this March, and they will have to reconsider what they want to do. Either they're going to continue working with only male staff, which is close to impossible because most of the humanitarian aid workers were females in Afghanistan. So that still remains a challenge on how the organizations are going to navigate that. Of course, this ban has directly impacted on the economy, and also there are so many families in Afghanistan with the women being the sole breadwinner, and not having a job for these women makes it harder to feed their children. There are thousands of children who are malnourished. There are no beds in the hospital for them, but the Taliban still continue to keep these bans in place. On March 6th of 2023, very recent, the Taliban announced the start of the new academic year for male students only. All male students were invited to come back to universities, and they were promised that the boys' schools will resume on March 23rd. There was no mention of girls beyond 6th grade. Girls up to 6th grade might still be allowed to go to school. There are no exact words about that, but there's a hope that they might resume. In Mazar-e-Sharif, however, in Balkh province, that's where we mostly used to build our school buildings. The Director of Education has promised that girls will be allowed to go to school from 1st to 7th grade, and that they're trying so hard to be able to resume school for girls in high school as well. But that's just something that we're hoping for and we're not sure about. The reason that the justification that the Taliban provide for these bans is hijab. Their argument is that girls and women do not abide to the rules of quote unquote Islamic hijab. That's why we're going to prevent them from going to universities, schools, and any other public places, including parks, public bathhouses, which was supposed to be for females only, by the way. And they are not allowed to travel without a male chaperone, just for the sake of quote unquote hijab. And their definition of hijab is way different than what is culturally accepted as hijab in Afghanistan. Just a day later, on March 7th, the Taliban closed all safe houses for women and invalidated any divorce cases that were approved in the past 20 years. So if an ex-husband wants to go back to his ex-wife who divorced him, it's very much permissible right now. And the man can go to the government and say that my wife divorced me in the past 20 years and I want to go back to her, and the woman has no other choice but to reconcile. So with all of this happening, and from building these amazing eco-friendly schools for girls, all of a sudden everything felt like things were crashing down. Most of the organizations that work for girls' education in Afghanistan either suspended operations or they decided to leave Afghanistan. But we decided to find partners and new ways of working in Afghanistan. And we had so many more reasons to continue working than we had before. So I'm going to play a short video of Dr. Shinkai, who's our board president, Shigufa, and myself talking about why Sahar is so important to us and why do we continue doing the work that we do. Please let me know if you can't hear the sound. I'm going to go ahead and play it right now.
I can't hear the sound.
Oh. Let me try my headphones and see if that would help. Can you hear it now?
Education is empowerment, growth, strength, access to your goals.
Education is a means to gain self-awareness and to achieve independence, equality, and autonomy.
As an Afghan woman, education is very important to me. Education means women's empowerment, equality.
We can't hear it now.
I'm so sorry about that. Keep my AirPods way, way far away so that my laptop wouldn't connect to it again. I'm sorry about that.
That's all right.
Can you hear it
to
now?
The United States in 1980 as refugees after the Russian invasion. My path to attain my dreams, my goals, was essentially paved in gold compared to the obstacles Afghan women and girls are facing today.
To ensure my access to education, my family relocated to Pakistan during the first era of the Taliban. I am privileged to have not missed on schooling.
but that came with the difficulties of being a refugee.
I remember growing up under the Taliban with fear. I was not able to go to school for 5 years. I started going to secret classes to learn English. Later on, I joined sewing classes to learn how to make clothes. As an African woman, I had to learn what was necessary at that time.
With Sahar, we continue to inspire and empower our girls through more creative initiatives. We've partnered with grassroots organizations on the ground and continue to implement our courses, our teacher training programs, women's reproductive courses, women's empowerment, and even courses for men in Partners for Change.
We at Sahar recognize the importance of education for girls in Afghanistan. And while girls' secondary schools still remain closed under the Taliban rule, we are finding alternative ways to educate girls in Afghanistan.
Sahar is there to support women's education. The education is taken away from them by Taliban. Women's education in Afghanistan is the key change.
When it feels as if the world has abandoned Afghanistan, we continue to be there. We've been there for the last 20 years, and we will continue to be there. We've survived different governmental changes, and we will endure this brief moment of darkness. We've created a global community of support for our girls. We will support them in any way we can through education.
It is now more important than ever to stand up for the girls of Afghanistan. Radicalism is trying to eliminate girls from the Afghan society, but we are there to support girls in their journey of self-empowerment.
Women cannot be invisible in Afghanistan.
So while things seemed so hard for us as an organization, we decided to regroup, rethink, and re-strategize on how we can continue working on the ground and providing education for girls. So that's when we decided to stop partnering with the Ministry of Education, because now Ministry of Education was the sole entity that was preventing girls from education. Unlike the previous government or the republic that we used to work with, we decided we are going to move away from the government because, of course, it would have only made things harder for us. And we decided to partner with grassroots organizations that are Afghan-led and that were founded by Afghans and know what it is that this community needs most at this point. So we decided to partner with these organizations and create educational programs for girls and build up on the programs that we used to implement before the fall of the Republic. We currently have 3 partners on the ground, 2 of them working in Mazar and 1 of them working in Kabul. The support that we provide for our partners is through funding programs, developing programs with the teams on the ground, managing the program. Shagufta has been doing a great job of managing the program with our partners on the ground, and also curriculum development. So the workshops, the women empowerment and women health workshops that we still continue to implement, those are developed by our team here in the US with the support of our partners who are experts in curriculum development fields. So one of the programs that we are currently working on is a literacy, sewing, and women empowerment and health program. What we did here was we brought together a group of 20 women who have never had the opportunity to get an education before and do not have any skills to provide for the family. They have been working inside the house for the family their whole lives and have never had an opportunity to get a formal education. So we brought them together and started literacy and sewing classes for them. We strategically included our women empowerment and health workshops in this program. Of course, we could not promote it as a women empowerment workshop. So to give these women the skills to read and write and sew clothes, we also wanted to bring awareness to their rights and what they can do in the house as leaders. So that was the whole goal behind that project. And gladly, we were able to wrap up the first round of this program on February 28th December. The other program ended in February. In December of last year, and this was right before the Taliban come up with the new decrees banning women from employment and going to learning centers. So as soon as we wrapped up that program, we were getting ready to start the second round of the program. But currently, because the Taliban do not allow women to work or go to these learning centers, we are working with the same partner in Kabul. They are following up on getting a permission for this. We are going to bring this under the vocational training category. That's one category that the Taliban might be slightly flexible towards, depending on what this training is that the women will be receiving. So we really can't do a secret or underground school in Kabul with this partner, at least, because if the Taliban find out, their license will be canceled. So we are trying to find legal ways to do this. We are working around it. Our partner has, they're in the third stage of getting that approval done. There's a lot of bureaucracy going right now. So there are very high hopes that we will be able to resume this program probably in the next 2 to 3 weeks. The program is designed for 6 months, and students are in class for 3 hours every day, 2 hours working on their literacy and sewing classes, and for another hour they cover women empowerment and health workshops. And the topics that we have included in our workshops include human rights, early marriages, domestic violence and conflict resolution, leadership for women, mental health, menstrual health, and reproductive health. These are some pictures of the first round of our program. After the program was completed and students graduated, we had them take their sewing machines home with themselves because we wanted them to have the skill and the means to work and at the same time make an earning for the family. 2 of our students have actually started their small businesses at home already, and their neighbors and relatives are coming to them to make clothes. So they are very happy about it. We received very positive feedback from these women about overall the training, but mainly the sewing and women empowerment workshop. A few more pictures from the same program. And then we also designed a women empowerment program that includes a series of workshops and trainings. This program is implemented in Mazar Sharif. Our partner is a private school in Mazar. Unfortunately, due to confidentiality and safety reasons, the partner would like for us not to mention their name, but the duration of the program was for 6 months again, and the topics that we had included in this program was English language classes, computers trainings, and again, for the women's empowerment and health workshops, we included the same topics as the previous workshop: human rights, early marriages, domestic violence, leadership, mental health, menstrual hygiene, and reproductive health. I made sure I include a few videos of our students from the program because just watching these videos gives us so much hope, and it just inspires us to work harder and to continue doing what we do. And I'd like to share that with you all here as well.
In the name of kind Allah, I'm Farah Sultani, one of the students of Women Empowerment Workshop. First of all, I'm very happy to be here in this program because my English language improved and my computer skills enhanced. And Women Empowerment Workshop was my favorite part because we learn about our values and ourselves in the society. And when I finish this program, I take a short break and work on my goals. What's my goals? My long-term goals is to see myself in a higher position and become a successful designer and satisfied and happy in my life. And my short-term goal is to gain a new skill and boost in network abilities. And I hope that I finished my school.
And I have one more short video from another student. She's very excited to share her Excel knowledge with us. She's learning Excel program and sent us a video of her explaining the lesson that she was practicing that day.
In the name of kind Allah, greetings. Student of Women Empowerment. Today I'm going to perform a function in Microsoft Excel. I already made this result sheet. all formulas and function in Microsoft Excel start with equal sign. So we type equal sign. After that, you want to perform it. So I write it. Then I open the bracket. I write our condition, which is and open the bracket. If 16 big and equal to 13, comma, if 16 small and equal to 14, close the bracket, comma, double quotes. We write in double quotes our comment. Excellent. Comma, I write again if, open the bracket and open the bracket. If 16, 2. Type our last comment. And I close the brackets. Enter. Okay. I choose the cell. Okay. If we change the numbers, our formula will work. We write 36. And here we write 12. And now I can see a result of f function. Thanks for watching. We will be back with more useful videos soon.
The third program that we were supporting in 2022 was a mobile schools for nomadic children. Nomadic children in Afghanistan have never had a chance to go to school because they're constantly on the move from one city to another, from one province to another, mainly because of their lifestyle. They survive on the animals that they have. So depending on the weather, how cold or warm it is, they move around so their animals can have enough food, and so they can use that for, of course, the producers to survive. So there was never a system established for these students to learn. So an amazing young Afghan woman came up with the idea of these mobile schools. So wherever the children travel, the school travels with them, and they regroup and restart the classes and start from where they left off in the previous location, and they just move forward. Her plan is to continue the school up until high school in 12th grade. This school is registered with the previous Ministry of Education. So it is very difficult to say that the current ministry will also allow them to continue the school up until 12th grade, but at least for now, they are still working so hard in continuing at least up until 6th grade. And depending on how things go after that, they will decide on how to regroup. Currently, this year, we are only supporting this partner with program management aspects, because that's where we felt like the program needed more support. And we are working with their team to provide them management support. Here are a few pictures of the program, and this program not only covers female students, but also male students. The school was established in 2 different provinces of Nangarhar and Laghman. There are 150 students in the Laghman school and 130 students in Nangarhar school. So a total of 280 students, both male and female. What is on the horizon for us? We are working with a new partner in Mazar, and we are ready to launch our home-based IT and coding classes for 140 girls over a 6-month period. And these home-based classes are going to be secret schools, basically. We cannot, unfortunately, go through the formal channel to start these classes. We were working on starting these classes in the high schools in Mazar because girls were still allowed to go to high schools last year. Unfortunately, while we were ready to launch, the government issued the new decrees, or better say the de facto authorities issued a new decree banning girls from schools in Mazar as well. So we had to remodify this program and work with the partner to make sure that we're still launching these classes, that we're still continuing, but more of secret schools and home-based. Our second program that we are about to launch with the same partner who is implementing our women empowerment program in Mazar is the Man as Partner in Change program. We created this program in 2019 and 2020 to work with young boys and their fathers to learn about women's rights and how to treat women and their families and communities. Shagufta and I, we both believe that we can't bring about a change in gender equality and women's issues if we don't include men in this process, and if we are not also training men to unlearn the toxic traits and the toxic values that they have learned growing up. So that's something that this program aims on, although it's very hard to implement these programs in the current situation, as you can tell, but our on-the-ground partners are showing a lot of courage, and more than our on-the-ground partners, I'm very immensely moved by the courage that the girls and boys are showing to attend these classes. And that's the source of inspiration for my team to continue our work in Afghanistan. What you can do to help, of course, raise awareness. There isn't a lot of work going around about Afghanistan and what's happening in Afghanistan. So I think raising awareness is the key. We need to get the word out about what's going on for girls and women in Afghanistan. Write to legislators demanding immediate action. I know that these efforts are not always easy to achieve the goal, but it's worth giving it an extra push and contacting legislators, amplifying the voices of Afghan women. Afghan women are working so hard with a lot of risk and basically risking their lives to fight for their rights inside Afghanistan. And all we can do, or at least what we can do here, is to amplify these voices. There are organizations that are working for Afghan women. There are women who are constantly demanding justice. Just amplifying their voices will add so much value to the movement that the women have started. And donating to trusted organization working for women's education and women's rights in Afghanistan. Thank you so much, and I will open the floor to any questions if there are any.
Thank you very much for that absolutely fascinating and very detailed information about education and all the things that you are doing. It's amazing what you have been able to do in spite of all of the restrictions that you have imposed upon you, the Taliban. So it gives great hope to us that listen to what you're doing. And we also realize how difficult the path has been for you and for those groups that are on the ground, and the women also that are willing to step forward and do it, because they're also under a lot of kind of just restraints to be able to go and try it. We've got some questions now from people. How do you mentally keep fighting when things seem so hard for everyone on the ground? What gives you your motivation?
I'm going to answer this question, and then we can go back to Shagufta to read her poem, and we'll come back to more questions.
Okay.
So what really keeps us going, like I said, we are very deeply connected, not only professionally, but also personally to the cause. Shagufta and I and Mustafa, all three of us have had the experience of living under the Taliban and how difficult it was. So to see all of that happen again to another generation of women, and to see that all the work that my generation put in making this change is going to win, is really difficult. It really just, all of this transition was it just came with a lot of grief for us. And Shagufah and I spent hours in our meetings talking about how difficult it is to continue, but knowing that we can't give up on the girls. Just the experience that we had is a force pushing us harder to continue the work. And while it is a difficult situation, like I said at the beginning, we are finding more reasons in this situation to continue. With the Republic, girls were allowed to go to school, but yet we were working. And now that there are no girls going to school, there's a bigger reason for us to work. And also the community support has been amazing. It's very uplifting. Us coming together, talking to one another, Shagufah and I, our board members, we have 2 African-American board members, Nadia Hashimi being one of them. She is an excellent person, very kind. So coming together with our network and also making sure that the support that we have here in the US for us, making sure that we are delivering that to our teams in Afghanistan. There are times when we meet with our teams and we say, today we are only going to talk about how do you feel doing the work that you do in Afghanistan. So just making sure that we're there to support one another, and the girls who continue to show immense courage and resilience coming to these classes is what's really keeping us fighting and moving and making sure that we're working.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Shagufah, do you want to go ahead and read your poem before we take any other questions?
Sure, yeah. Just adding to that quick answer that Mitra gave, like what as we work with all these young women, as you saw their videos and how they're talented and smart, believe it or not, all of these individuals that we talk and we give them hope, and they're fighting and they're being resilient and strong, give us hope. And they're on the ground and they're fighting, they're doing the more work than we do. So that does keep us going, and we always see hope. As you see, Afghanistan always been in a fight and always been standing up again and build again. So that's where standing behind our people. So my poem is about women walking alone. I started writing poems when I was in Afghanistan, and I do grow up, I was born and raised in Afghanistan and spent most of my childhood under the Taliban. And I did experience what you see today women are experiencing in Afghanistan. When I came to US, I tell my story, and I always thought that my story will be a unique story, and it will never ever any woman will experience what I experienced it during the Taliban. And what you're seeing right now is story is repeating itself, sadly, and it's heartbreaking, but at the same time making us more stronger to fight harder. So my poem is about the woman. It's a little bit my story and a little bit more about Afghan women's stories, how they're living their life and how they're fighting for their freedom. Women walking alone. I'm from a long line of women who have walked alone. From a land that smells of blood of innocent people. From a people who have lost everything in war, sons, daughters, fathers, and mothers. From a people feeling hopeless. I'm from a long line of women who have walked alone. I'm proud to be a daughter of a brave woman who never gave up and showed her children the right way, who sacrificed herself, who in childhood loved me once to remind me how important it was to concentrate on my lessons. She was the best mother in the world. I'm from a long line of women who have walked alone, from a place where I could never hear what my heart told me, and I could only follow what my family told me. From a place where I couldn't express my wishes and hide my hopes, where I couldn't support my rights and I had to accept, where everybody says, you can do it, you can go ahead, you can achieve your goal. I'm from a place where girls are exchanged for money and forced to marry. where I was humiliated for being a quiet girl, where a teacher told me, I don't care what you think because you can't do anything. I'm from a discouraging world that killed my talent because I was a girl. I'm from Lying Land woman who have walked alone. From a woman who failed many times in different situations. I lost my confidence when I lost my mother. Feeling alone without her guidance and losing hope. Feeling afraid to gain knowledge in case there is no freedom. From a culture where girls never see the outside, sitting in a cage like a bird who don't know how to fly. When my mother leaves me, she tells me, find your way. I cannot always be with you. She passes the responsibility to me. I am from a long line of women who have walked alone. I know now how to enter society and find my answers though I am alone. Learn from my experience though I have failed many times. I never give up. I find my way and learn nothing is impossible to achieve. I ignore those things that destroy my mind. I learn that no one can help me except me. I accept reality and ready to face any problem. Now I am ambitious to achieve my goal, to help my people bring peace to the next generation. I am from a long line of women who have walked alone. Thank you.
Oh, what a very moving poem. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. You have all accomplished so much, and there's so much hope for the future. And just your own journey, you had a lot of hope from your own journey. We do have somebody that has their hand raised. Tammy Silver has her hand raised and ask a question. Tammy, would you like to go ahead?
Hi, thank you. Yes, we have a group of 8 of us here watching you, and we so appreciate your words and your work. I have a person here who is wondering if she can ask a question in Dari.
Of course.
Okay.
بله سلام علیکم.
سلام علیکم، خوب هستین؟
شکر الحمدلله، خوشحال هستم که میبینم تنها. واقعا بسیار زیاد تشکر. یک سوال داشتم، میخواستم که پرسان کنم آیا این کورسایتان هنوز هم ادامه داره یا استاپ کردین دیگه پیش نمیبرین به خاطر مشکلاتی که از افغانستان نمیتونین، یا نه هنوز هم ادامه داره؟
تشکر بسیار زیاد. من خیلی خوشحال هستیم که شما امروز هستین. ما کورسای ما خوشبختانه هنوز هم ادامه داره، با وجودی که شرایط زیادتر شده و ما مجبور بودیم که بعضی صنف‌های خود تا صنف‌های خانگی بسازیم و مدیر از نظر دولت فعلی این کار پیش ببریم. بعضی برنامه‌های دیگه ما خیلی هم واضح و آشکار پیش میره. ما برنامه‌های ما ادامه داره. قبلا مکاتب دخترانه که ما شهر مزار شریف می‌ساختیم متأسفانه تعمیر مکاتب متوقف یافته، اما برنامه‌ای را که در موردش صحبت کردیم هنوز ادامه داره.
بسیار خوب. یعنی در کابل هنوز هم هست که خانم‌ها میتونن برن کورسای، فکر کنم کورس بگیرن، درس بخوانن؟
برنامه ما در تمام کورس ها متاسفانه دخترها فعلا از دسامبر پارسال تا حال منع شدن، اما برنامه را که ما پیش می بردیم در ماه دسامبر تمام شد. پارتنر ما که فعلا در افغانستان هستن کار دارن که از وزارت کار امور اجتماعی یک مکتوب بگیرن و مکتوب برشان اجازه از این میده که صنف‌ها را دوباره شروع بکنن بخیر. و صنفی که در کابل ما کار میکردیم صنف خیاطی و سوادآموزی بود که در پلی خیاطی و سوادآموزی در مورد حقوق زنان و موضوعات سیاسی زنان ورکشاپ دایر میکردیم. او برنامه انشالله به زودی شاید تا 2 هفته دیگه یا 3 هفته دیگه انشالله دوباره شروع شود.
بسیار زیاد تشکر. ما میخواستیم چرا که بسیار زیاد فامیلای ما در افغانستان است، یعنی خواهر خود ما یعنی فارغ التحصیل پانتون استاد ربانی شده، بسیار با مشکلات، یعنی اونم پانتونش خلاص شده، در خانه است، وظیفه نیست. ما هم خواستیم که بتانه کورس یعنی با دیگه خانم‌ها بتانه یا دختر خانم‌های دیگر را جمع کنن، بتانه برسو درس بتن. یک پلان ما هم گرفته بودم که چرا و هم در خانه وظیفه نی، یعنی خودش یک استرس برسو پیدا میشه. باز بسیار خوش بود. من گفتم که خیره، باز ما میبینیم که چی کمک کرد. ما خودم مدت 1 سال شده اینجا آمدیم، یعنی نمیخوایم دختر خانمای دیگه هم پس وانه از درس. من برشان گفتم که خیر میتونی از خانه شروع که بر زونا درس بدی. اگر مکاتب بسته کردن میتونیم از خانه هم برشان درس بدیم. بسیار خوشحال هستیم که مشاهده ما همچنان ما خوشحال شدیم که کمکایی که شما میکنین. واقعا از این موضوع خبر داشتم خودم که در افغانستان بودم، کورسای خیاطی و کورسای به خانمایی که تحصیل نکرده بودن واقعا میشنیدم، بسیار خوشحال بودم. بسیار زیاد تشکر. بسیار زیاد تشکر.
زنده باشین. تشکر بسیار زیاد که وقت موندین آمدین امشب.
قابلتان نداره. بسیار زیاد تشکر.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you all for being here.
Was she interested in finding out about schools or education for her family? Is she's here in the United States, or wanting to know how to refer her family in Afghanistan?
Yeah, she has been here for a year, and she wanted to know if our programs are still actively taking place in Afghanistan, mainly in Kabul, or if we have closed down the program. So I gave her a little more information about our program in Kabul and how we are waiting, or our partners waiting to get a letter from the Ministry of Labor and Social Services to resume the sewing classes. And she was telling me about her sister who has a bachelor's degree, recently graduated from university, but can't work. So she's planning on starting a similar home-based school for other girls. We were talking about that. And it's very sad to see that a whole generation of women who had worked so hard to get an education, work for their goals, now have to stay home and find ways to engage in the community. And that's just so unfortunate and really heartbreaking. Like Shagufa said, we thought we would be the last generation of women experiencing all of that. But to see another generation going through the same struggles is just really heartbreaking. And again, that's really another reason for us to continue the work that we do.
Well, your work is very invaluable. You're giving hope and a lot of just love and kindness to a whole generation of women and girls. And without you and Sahar, it would be very difficult for them and impossible. And you give them lots and lots of hope for the future. And everyone has lots of hope for the future. So is it possible or appropriate to ask, when did you come to the United States, or what was your journey?
So I always talk about this. I've done so many things. So when I was 3 years old, that was when the Taliban took over Afghanistan for the first time. This is back in 1996. So my brothers, my older brother and my older sister, they were both in first grade in school. And the Taliban ordered all girls to stay home, including those in first grade. So my father said he can't have me and my sister miss an opportunity to get an education. That was the only reason for my family to relocate to Pakistan, so we can get an education. And in 2003, when the Republic had already come into being, we moved back to Afghanistan. And this is when I was 9 years old. I joined back school, continued up until 11th grade. And I came to the US for my senior year of high school through an exchange program when I was 16. And I went back as soon as I was done with my exchange year. I went to the American University of Afghanistan to get my bachelor's in political science and public administration with a minor in law. And I also worked with American Councils for International Education, where we used to provide summer and winter camps for Afghan high school students to learn about leadership, civil engagement, and in general self-development. So I continued that work until 2018. That's when I came back to the US on the Fulbright program to get my master's degree in women's studies and gender studies. And I've been in the US since then.
Well, that's quite a journey that you've had. Yes. So congratulations on everything that you were able to do as well. So what is your other team? Did they have the same journey that you did coming here, or?
I will let Mustafa speak for himself. We don't want to take over just because he's the only male team member.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with us.
Yeah. I have the same story. Like when Taliban came first to Afghanistan, we migrated to Pakistan, and there I got my my education, and we came back to Afghanistan when there was the Republicans, and I got my bachelor's in economics, and I got my master's then from Kazakhstan through a scholarship. And afterwards, I came back to Afghanistan and I worked with Youth Embassy projects. It was a Afghan Workforce Development Program. And through that program, I got my SIV, which is a special immigration visa. And yeah, I came to the United States in 2019. So it has been like 4 years. I'm living here in Virginia.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your journeys with us. You've had quite a lifetime in a very short period of time of your life, because you're both very young, or all three of you are very, very young. And what you're doing in Afghanistan right now for women and girls is absolutely amazing. You're giving a whole generation of hope. And we all hope that eventually the Taliban will see things differently. Do you obviously have hope for that, or you wouldn't be going forward and hope for that they will restart the schools, and you're not. And then someday, do you think that the Ministry of Education will possibly come around with new edicts?
I'm not very optimistic about that, unfortunately. I wish I could say otherwise, but from the experience that we have had with the first era of the Taliban, they just never allowed women to even be in the society or get an education. This time, when they came to power, they promised that they were going to be more progressive, that they were going to adopt progressive policies towards women and women's rights. But it just took them a few months to backtrack on all of those promises that they made. So they came with that whole new Taliban face just to get the international attention and get recognition from the international community. So when they see that they weren't getting it, they started backtracking on the promises that they made for women's education. And since then, they have only added more restrictions for women each day. For example, they first only restricted women from high schools, and last year they restricted women from universities, from employment, and we can only imagine what other restrictions they're going to place on women. I really want to be very hopeful and optimistic, but unfortunately, I'm not as optimistic. But hope, yes, I'm still hopeful. I'm not optimistic, but definitely hopeful that Afghans themselves will create that change. Luckily, this time, Afghans, people in general, but mainly women, are more aware of their rights. They have more exposure to the world through social media now, internet, mass media. So women are more aware of their rights. And the fact that women are protesting on the streets today is a sign of them being aware of their rights and not wanting to go back. So the pressure that women and men who stand in support of these women can put on the current de facto authorities, I think that can get us somewhere. And we need a lot of international support for that to happen. We have been advocating, not Sahar, but Afghans here in the US. We have been organizing protests. We have been asking for restrictions on the Taliban as well. But the international community has been very silent about all of this. I think we need to continue advocating for Afghan women on all levels. And I am hopeful that this time Afghans won't give in to the Taliban's draconian policies like they did last time.
Well, we all join with hoping with you and hoping that that is the future. And it is actually the future of the people of Afghanistan and the women that are helping to lead it forth. And as you said at the very beginning, re-educate men so that they know what they should do and how that they can improve their society. Because economic-wise, how are those women that are by themselves feeding their family? It must be a terrible destitution.
It is a catastrophe happening in Afghanistan. Even men, a lot of men who used to work in the previous government have lost their jobs because, like I said, most of the nonprofit organizations, humanitarian aid organizations have suspended their operations, or most of them have already withdrawn from Afghanistan. All the embassies closing down in Afghanistan, all the businesses running out of business and going bankrupt, even the banks closing down, a lot of media outlets closing down, either because of the restrictions that the government's putting in place or because they can't have that source of earnings. So not only women, but even men have been economically affected by this situation. And there is not a lot that the current de facto authorities are doing to create more jobs for people. So a lot of people, 97% of the population is expected to live under the poverty line by the end of this year. So that's almost the whole nation. And it's just so heartbreaking to see all of this happening.
Yes, because terribly heartbreaking. And you talked about the beginning, there used to be 180 different nonprofit groups that were there. So how many are left? I mean, it seemed to be that you were talking about like 3.
So the 180 humanitarian aid organizations, they were still in Afghanistan up until December of last year, until the Taliban issued the new decrees to ban female employees. Some of them are still in Afghanistan. For example, Save the Children, IRC, the Swedish Committee. There's organizations that are still operating, but in a limited capacity because they're demanding the current authorities to let female employees come back to work. So if that happens, and if the Taliban allow for that to happen, then we can expect that there are going to be more jobs for everyone again. But if the Taliban continue with these decrees, these organizations might withdraw as well. So that there's still risks of more people losing their jobs. The UN still, of course, continues to operate in Afghanistan, and the only organization that has an exception to allow female employees is the UN. Other than the UN, no other organization has female employees at the moment, unfortunately. But most of these organizations have kept their female employees in the payroll. Female employees are working from home and getting paid, but they're not able to go on the field and deliver the services. So these organizations can't continue keeping employees on the payroll if they don't resume their full operations.
Oh, what a devastating situation. Well, I appreciate your taking the time and educating us on all of the work of Sahar. And we all wish you, everybody that was here today, thanks you very much for sharing with us, and hopes that the future does change around and brings new things to Afghanistan, and they can return to how they used to be, a vibrant community. Absolutely.
As we say in Afghanistan, inshallah, meaning God willing, we hope that we can see those good days soon. We do have a question in the chat box, if you don't mind me taking that.
Sure.
The question says, how can Pasadena help to support and amplify your work? What is on your wish list? So if you can please share our work. We are on social media under the name Sahar Education. We are on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We also do have a website, sahareducation.org. If you can please go on our website, learn more about our work, and spread the word around the work that we are doing. Of course, we will need more funding to continue our programs on the ground. We solely depend on our donors' generous contribution. We do not have another source of income. So just expanding that community of our donors and sharing our work would be great help. I think doing this, raising awareness, we had the opportunity to raise awareness here to this amazing group. If you continue doing the same, spreading awareness in your communities about Afghanistan in general, women's situation, and the work that we are doing, that would mean the world to us.
Thank you very much. So I want to remind everyone that attended today that today's program has been recorded and will be on YouTube Pasadena Library, and it'll be up probably in about 3 or 4 days so that you can share it with all of your friends and relatives and acquaintances in Pasadena and help support Sahar and get the word out about their excellent work. Also, I want to remind you to please come to Nadia Hashima's program on Friday, March the 24th. Read her book, Sparks Like Stars. Pick up a free copy while they're available at the Pasadena Public Libraries at our 10 branches. Also, please remember that Nadia is on the board of Sahar. And so when you come, you can ask her further questions or realize that she is there out in her community as well, trying to get the support going. And thank you very much for taking the time with us today. We appreciate Sahar being there, and Mitra and all of you here. Thank you so much for your time to spend with us today. Thank you very much. And God bless you all. We'll end with your word.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Thank you very much, everyone. Good night.
Have a good night. Thank you for being here, everyone.
Thank you.